Hello and welcome to a new episode of Mostly Engineering and another part in our Enigma build series. And today we are going to finally turn this piece of metal into our sleeve. And in order to do so, we are first going to chuck this in the lathe, then turn the inside and outside diameter of the upper side, then turn the piece around, turn the inside and outside diameter of the lower side, cut it to length. Then we go over to the mill, chuck it in the rotary table, drill all the necessary holes in it, and cut the two slots for the locating tab. And we are done with the part. So without further ado, let's go over to the lathe. So here we have our part chucked into the lathe, and we are starting to realize that our tool is way too proud in order to take the cut. So let's adjust this real quick. And we are losing a little bit of confidence, seeing how far back we have to set our tooling. But never mind. Let's do this. So switch on the machine and take the first cut. It sounds absolutely awful, and now our machine stalled. So let's back off for a second. And remember to take lighter cuts and also to adjust the RPM of our machine. And yeah, it still sounds pretty awful. It doesn't really feel good or safe. So yeah, that's probably not going to work out. So let's stop and take it to the workshop where we have a proper lathe. So here we have our sleeve. It turned out really nicely. So especially the surface finish, not too perfect, so that it looks like well and lovingly used, exactly as I wanted. But as you probably saw, is that I don't have video of the process. And the reason for this is, as you saw in the insert footage, this part is actually a little bit too big for the lathe I have here in my home workshop. It's right on the limit size-wise and also power-wise of my machine. And here you can see how far back I had to set the tooling in order to work. And some of the cutting edge is already inside the tool holder, and this is nothing that inspires a lot of confidence in the process. I mean, it would be possible if I had no other choice, but very slowly, very carefully. And so I took the decision to take the part to the workshop where we have a bigger lathe, and turning it out there is much more efficient, much safer. And if something is safer, this is always the way to go. The only disadvantage at work is that filming is very difficult. Setting up a camera setup to film would block access to other machines we have in the workshop, and I can't do this to my colleagues. And also, filming takes up a lot more time than just turning out the part, and other people have to use the lathe there as well. And lastly, being a prop workshop, we are often under non-disclosure agreements, and having something accidentally show up in the background we are under NDA for is a risk I'm not willing to take. But on the other hand, it's a very straightforward turning process, so nothing really interesting there. So let's go over to the fit. So we have our digit ring over here. Part fits in here really nicely with a satisfying click. Then we have our central column with the finger ring. And here again, also really satisfying tight fit. So the part holds on without anything, just by contact. Really nicely. The only thing we have to adjust is the tolerances between the digit ring and the sleeve are slightly too tight. This ring has to move a little bit smoother. So some little adjustments there. Otherwise, the part is fine. So now what's left to do is all the holes for the screws to hold on the two clamp holders, and also to secure the sleeve in place with the central column. So this 4 screws, and then the slot for this little notch over here. So let's put this in the rotary table and go over to the mill to drill the holes. So here we are at the mill. Our part is already chucked into the rotary table and the right drill bit is inserted. But again, it looks awfully close. So let's move our mill up to the very top. And yeah, once again, our machine is too small and the very top is not big enough. So we would still need 5 or 6 millimeters more for the tool to clear the part. So once again, that's not going to work. So back to the workshop. So another trip to the workshop, and we finally have the finished sleeve with the slots for the tab and then all the threaded holes around the perimeter. Took us long enough, and again, I'm sorry that I couldn't show you the process, but at least this time I got a picture of the setup, and you see it's more or less the same setup I had here in my home workshop, but with the notable difference that now I had enough tool clearance. But the interesting question now is, of course, will it fit? So let's take our digit ring, and yeah, that still fits really nicely. But now let's see if my idea that the screw just sit in this hole here is enough to securely tighten the sleeve down. So let's take our M2 screws. Let's get them started here. Na komm. A little bit fiddly, but yeah. And also noteworthy, like the countersink screws, and in the original, in the finished build, we will have flathead screws so that they sit properly, but the flathead screws are still in the mail, and just for the test, it doesn't really matter that the screws aren't seated properly, so they will do. And one screw to go. And let's find the notch. It's over here. Put this in. Yeah. So that fits, and if everything goes right, these screws should go in now without any problem. And they do. Very nice, or at least the first one. Let's turn it around. And again, last screw. And it already starts to look like an Enigma rotor. So the digit ring moves nicely. Could be a slightly bit more loose. But the important thing is, and yeah, the sleeve itself moves not a millimeter. It's rock solid, so everything works how I imagine it very nicely. So that's basically it for today. If you have questions, if you have comments, just leave them down below. And as always, I try to answer them as quickly and correctly as possible. In the next episode, we will probably do a little side project. So either something I want to show you from my Enigma puzzle box, or some lathe improvements that will make turning all these little pins out here a little bit easier. So until then, all that's left to say now is thanks for watching and see you at the next time. Bye bye.